Hi everyone, this is Tanner and welcome back to another episode of the Man to Man Coach podcast. Today I'm joined with my good friend and co-host Mason.
What's up, guys?
And today we're gonna be talking about some more football, kind of going over week six, recapping the 2018 draft class and previewing week seven. Mason, I can't believe we're already to week seven. It seems like these past couple weeks have just flown by super fast. So it's crazy that almost about midway through the season. And since we're going by fast, we are going to bring back a topic we did a couple weeks ago, which is contenders or pretenders. We talk about teams who have a good record. Are they for real or not? The five teams we have are the Packers, Bengals, Titans, Cowboys, Chiefs. So kind of some familiar faces here, but also added some new teams. So Mason, if you want to start us with the Green Bay Packers, and is this Packers team for real? And what I mean by contenders, could they go and compete in the playoffs? Because I think all these teams are good. I think we could all agree with that. But is this team a serious contender come playoff time?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think this team is a contender. I think after week one, it was like, whoa, this is not the Packers we're used to. But then after that, they've really switched into another gear. I think that was a good week one for them because it gave them like a wake up call that they can't just mess around. They actually have to try. And they're doing this with a lot of, without a lot of players. I mean, Jair Alexander, he's on IR. They played without him. They've done pretty well in defense without him. They also are missing David Bakhtiari, who they're getting back pretty soon. So that's going to be massive and opening up so many things for that Packers offense because he's one of the best tackles in football. Aaron Rodgers is starting to play like Rodgers these past couple weeks. Devontae Adams is still playing like Devontae Adams. He's like number one in receiving yards in the league. He's an absolute stud. Aaron Jones has been playing really good. Defensively, their defense isn't as good as it should be um, because Jair's out. But once Jair's back, I think they'll be like kind of a mid-tier defense. I don't think they'll be an elite defense. I don't think it'll be a horrible defense. And I think you can win with that with a great offense because you saw the Chiefs have done that multiple times. You've seen other teams go pretty far in the playoffs with a middle-tier defense. They signed Jalen Smith too, who played for the first time this Sunday against the Bears. He didn't really play that much, but I don't think Jalen Smith is who he used to be a couple of years ago, but I think he's
Mhm.
still a pretty solid linebacker. And he's definitely better than some of the other people that they have on their depth chart. So I think that's just going to boost their defense and run stopping ability even more. But yeah, the way Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones, and Devontae Adams are playing, and they're going to get back more key players, I think this team is definitely a contender for me. Let's just hope they don't make the NFC Championship game
Oh
again and
no.
don't do much.
Mason's hoping it's Packers Cardinals, so that the Cardinals automatically go. This team is tough because they're 5-1, and you're like, oh, that's a good record. It is, but they almost lost to the Bengals, right, with the several missed kicks. And then you look at that Steelers game, they did beat the Steelers, but it's only by like a couple points. And there's a callback touchdown Pittsburgh had. So if they had that touchdown, Steelers would have been behind by three, maybe some more of a different ball game. I just this team, I think they play good, sound football, right? I think they can run the ball well. That's something nice to see. Aaron Jones is always a consistent back. Like Rodgers is making good plays. He's not turning the ball over. He's playing well. And the defense is kind of playing bend but don't break. But there's nothing about this team that I'm really excited about. They don't seem to have that explosive element. And it kind of worries me about them come playoff time and kind of later down this season, right? They've had kind of some easier games. The toughest opponent was the Bengals, and they barely won. They have the Cardinals coming up here week 8, and then I think it's like Chiefs Seahawks. They also have later in the schedule the LA Rams, the Ravens, the Browns. This is still a tough schedule. So the main thing I'm kind of worried about is that this team just doesn't look too explosive. It seems like it's Devontae Adams, Aaron Rodgers kind of every week. Randall Cobb had that one breakout game against the Steelers, and that was it. So I don't know. I just think that this Packers team over the past 3 years in kind of this rebooted era with Matt LaFleur and Rodgers, they have been kind of more of an explosive team. This year, they look a bit more kind of quiet. I don't know if that's enough for them to um win enough games in the playoffs. I think that they will win the NFC North pretty easily, but I'm just kind of worried about these other teams like the Buccaneers, Cardinals, Rams, who I think could beat them easily.
Yeah, for sure. I think the next couple weeks will definitely be telling if they're for real or not. It's just basically, can their defense stay afloat against really good offenses, and can their offense be consistent? I think that's the biggest thing. Hopefully Jair's back by the time they start needing these big games, especially against the Cardinals. They definitely need him back. So yeah, you're definitely right. The next couple of weeks will definitely be telling if this team is kind of going to be like the middle of the pack and just make it the wild card, or if this team can like really compete with like the Buccaneers, the Cardinals, and the Rams, and the Bills of the world and stuff like that.
Yeah, or even a team like the Chargers, right?
Hmm.
Because I don't know if they could beat them. And then I think another thing is talking about the future. I think if you're a Packers fan, you're pretty scared because supposedly next year Rodgers and Adams are gone, and those have been the two players who have you had 5 wins. So I think the Packers, I just kind of think this is a bad outlook for them. I think that they go with like 11 wins this season or 12. I think they probably, so they have one loss. I think they either drop one to the Ravens or Browns. I think they drop one to the Rams, the Chiefs, and maybe the Cardinals or Seahawks. Um, and that would put them at 12-5. And I just think they're going to be one and done in the playoffs. And then next year you have no Rodgers and Adams. Where do you go? So this could potentially look bad for the Packers. We'll see, but it's just kind of a thought in my mind. But um, next up, when I have the Bengals, I've been a huge fan of the Cincinnati Bengals team, even though I, love the Baltimore Ravens and the Bengals are in the same division. I have just liked this team because they have a nice record, and this is not something you usually see with Cincinnati. Joe Burrow is playing at a very high level. He is, in my opinion, up there for the MVP, comeback player of the year. He should definitely make the Pro Bowl in my eyes. I think that he's making these high level throws in tight spaces. It's not like he's throwing to wide open guys. He's throwing on the run, which he has some nice mobility to him, or he's throwing downfield. And this chemistry with the wide receivers are great. I feel like you're really seeing Joe Burrow from LSU, that big record breaking college season game translated perfectly into the NFL. Besides that, Joe Mixon has been a very nice running back. I don't know if he's top 5, but he's definitely in that conversation. He's one of the more better balanced backs. I feel like he's so elusive. He can make a nice cut. He has some nice power to him. He's great in the receiving game. And then we even saw Captain America himself, Chris Evans, get involved in the Lions win. So that was cool to see that. And then his defense is the third point I want to make. They look really good there. Logan Wilson's having kind of a breakout season at linebacker. This secondary isn't really allowing that many big plays. So I think this Bengals team, you know, because I like to go to other teams' social media comments and read them to kind of get what other fans are thinking. And a lot of fans are like, hey, we gotta blow out the Lions. We gotta win by like 20 plus. And that's what happened, right? They destroyed Detroit. So I think that this Bengals team, their ability to get like a blowout win, I think really shows how good this team is. I think that this team will finish with probably 10 wins, and they might be one and done in the playoffs. But I think the difference between a team like the Packers and the Bengals is the Packers has veterans. You have Super Bowl expectations. I think for the Bengals with a young team and the head coach Zach Taylor, who people are still like, is he the real deal? If he can get this team to the playoffs and maybe win one game or at least get there, I think that shows this team that they can compete well. This reminds me of the Buffalo Bills a couple years back. Josh Allen's rookie year was rough. The team won like 5, 6 games. Then year two, they won like 9 or 10 games. They were one and done in the playoffs. They lost to the Texans, but they made it. And then the next season, which was last season, the Bills went all the way to the AC Championship game. I'm seeing a similar thing with the Bengals with this progression of Burrow and the team. So I like what I've seen from them so far.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely don't think they're a pretender. I don't really think they're a contender either. I think they're more in that middle space. I think they're going to make the playoffs, but I think they're going to have to probably face either the Ravens, Chargers, Chiefs, or the Bills in the playoffs the first round. So I don't think they'll win against any of those teams just because those teams are like Super Bowl contenders for the most part, or at least trying to at least. Um, and I know the Bengals, but I think if the Bengals make the playoffs, I think that like I don't think coming into the season that was the expectation that they were going to make playoffs. I think it was just improve on the season they had before. So I think if they make playoffs, that's a huge accomplishment that that team should be proud of because they're definitely overachieving. I feel like because Burrow is kind of technically in his late phase of his rookie year because he barely played in his first year. Zach Taylor is still a really new head coach. He's still trying to learn. Jamar Chase is a rookie. He's played phenomenal, but he's only going to get better. So, but yeah, I definitely like this team for the future, and I definitely think they should be proud of how they're doing so far. Because I think coming into this year, if you told me the Bengals would start off 4-2, I'd be like, what? I don't know about that. But no, they're definitely playing better than expected. And I think that defense has really taken a big step. I think the
Mhm.
defense I was really concerned about, but they have playmakers all over the field. I mean, they lost William Jackson in free agency, but they're making up for it with the new guys they got. Jesse Bates has been really good. Logan Wilson has been playing really solid. Trey Hendrickson, they picked him up in free agency. He's been not crazy good, but he's been like solid. He's been a solid pass rusher. I think the defensive tackle's name is DJ Reader. Not many people talk about him. He's having a monster year, pretty much just clogging the run lanes. Joe Mixon's finally consistent, so you like to see that. But no, yeah, I definitely think this team is definitely gonna make like the playoffs. I think they'll probably be a first round exit, but I think this is something to build on for the future. And I think everyone on that team should be excited about like Joe Burrow and the future of that Cincinnati team.
Yeah, definitely. I think this defense has been really underrated. I like the pieces you mentioned. I hope they get more recognition and respect. I think overall, no one's talking about the Bengals, and I hope that changes. And I just think you see in Joe Burrow like how big of an impact he is. Because when you Andy Dalton, yeah, he was nice, but Burrow has kind of more of that it factor. So
Mhm.
Mason, the next team you have is the Tennessee Titans. If you want to start the conversation about that.
Yeah, so this Titans team is really, really weird.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
They're
some
the
weeks they
Saints
just,
of the AFC.
yeah, some weeks they just look really good, and other weeks they're like, wow, you do not look good. Um, so last week they beat the Bills. A great game by the Titans. I think that was just poor management by the Bills. I think the Bills could have easily won that game. I think that was just poor coaching and poor decision making. He had a chance to tie the game and decided not to. Um, but that's another story. But yeah, the Titans, I think they're really good. I think my only concern is that they're relying on Derrick Henry a little too much because I don't know if anyone's been really paying attention. Ryan Tannehill's been having a really quiet year this year. He hasn't been like the Ryan Tannehill of like the past couple years, but he hasn't been like the Ryan Tannehill in the Dolphins days. He's kind of in that middle ground where he's like pretty good, but not like elite how he kind of was. Because like for example, in that Bills game, I mean, he threw no touchdowns. He had a pick. They're really relying on Derrick Henry. They're giving him like 35 carries a game. And I know Derrick Henry's a beast, but at what point is giving him the ball too much, a little too much? I mean, he's on pace to have the most carries in NFL history, which is concerning for me because I don't know if come playoff time, if he's going to be banged up or he's going to be exhausted from literally carrying the ball so much in that offense. And that defense is also concerning too. They went out and got Bud Dupree. He's made very little impact on that pass rush, which was the biggest concern coming into this year was can they get to the quarterback, which they really haven't been able to. Their rookie Caleb Farley, he's out for the year with a torn ACL, so hope he gets better. Kevin Byard, though, he's having a really great year. That's pretty much their bright spot of their defense is Kevin Byard really having an not a breakout year because he's always been good, but resurgence, I guess I should say. He's been really great. But no, and their offensive line has also been really bad in the pass game, been pretty solid in the run game. Pass game wise, though, Tannehill doesn't have much time to throw. Julio Jones, he's missing games. Same with AJ Brown. It's just this team is good. I think they're just a little too inconsistent just because AJ Brown and Julio Jones, like every week, you don't know if they're going to play. Their offensive line has been really, really bad in the pass blocking. And then their defense is inconsistent. So it's just really hard to say they're a contender. I think they're going to make playoffs, but I think if they play like a Chargers or like a Ravens team, I think they're going to lose. So I don't know if they can make it far in the playoffs, but as long as they keep giving it to Derrick Henry, they'll at least make the playoffs, is my outlook on it.
I could not wait for this week 10 of football. We have the Titans playing the Saints in week 10 of this week. That's going to be the craziest game. Two inconsistent teams. I love what you said, Mason, and I'm not going to add on that much, but I do want to bring up one point. This team just kind of seems to like discipline and focus. They get a lot of penalties. And I just feel like they've had a lot of just interesting plays. There's this play on Monday night. And by the way, that Titans Bills game was one of the better games I've seen this year. Where Josh Allen is like running and he's like getting pushed by the defensive line, and some Titans linebacker comes in and hits Allen like helmet to helmet. It's like that's just a terrible play. So it seems like there's a lot of penalties, a lot of stuff like that. And I think that they just don't look disciplined on the offense. Tannehill's been pretty good. I'm a bit high on him this season, but I mean, Julio Jones has been so disappointing. Like, I think people expect a regression, but not to this extent. He had that fantastic catch on Monday night. Like the ball goes in the air after it goes off his hands and he like leans out to catch it. Besides that, though, he hasn't really done a whole lot. He doesn't seem to have that speed as you would like. He's still a good route runner, but he's been underwhelming. And this offense and this team just kind of lacks discipline. I thought that the Bills game, they did a good job winning. They had some nice deflections in the secondary. Good job. I don't want to take anything away from that. But that's the first time I've really seen the Titans play like that. I wonder if Arthur Smith, who was the offensive coordinator last year, now the Falcons head coach this year, I think he impacted his team more than people think. I wonder if he had a huge impact for the Titans. So I'm going to go Pretenders. I just think this defense is still a huge issue. Even the two star players, Jeffrey Simmons and Harold Landry, haven't been that impressive. Like they've been pretty good, but they're not elite. The secondary, they just kind of have trouble with route running. Like speed, they have some speed there, but if someone like you saw it on Monday night, like Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders, if they throw a nice route on them, this Titans secondary is lost. So they just need to get someone there in the secondary to really help with that. Even Kevin Byard, who I love, has, he cannot be enough. So yeah, I just think the Titans really lack this kind of discipline. And I think that they'll win games the rest of the season, but I think they kind of win 9 games. They maybe miss the playoffs. Well, I think they'll make it because of the AFC South, but I think it could be close to the Colts and Titans near the end of things. So we'll see how things go for the Titans. They have some interesting games coming up. They have the Saints, as I said, the inconsistent bowl. And they have the 49ers, they have the Rams still. They have the Patriots, they have the Dolphins. They have some kind of winnable games, but some tough ones. So Mason, if you don't have anything else to add on, I'll move on to the fourth team, or if there's anything else you'd like to say.
I think you hit everything on the nail pretty much.
Yeah, so we're moving to another team who wears blue, and that is the Dallas Cowboys. We have not talked a ton about the Cowboys on this show, which is kind of interesting because that's like all of the other sports shows talk about. I guess that's why we haven't covered them because Skip and Shane will talk about them on Fox for 2 hours. But I thought that we should talk about the Cowboys because they've been a pretty impressive team this season. That NFC East, I thought it was going to be close with Washington winning, but the Cowboys have been the best team in that division. Their offense looks the best. Dak Prescott looks like the top quarterback in that division by a mile. And the best defense in that division has gone to the Cowboys. And people might say, well, the NFC East sucks. It's easy to win it. I mean, Washington was hyped up before the season. The Giants were with that defense, but the Giants defense has disappeared. I don't know where it's at. They've been injured, the offense, and Washington is just they can't play a complete game, and Philadelphia doesn't run the football. So, the Cowboys, I think, have done a really good job this season. I love the way their offense plays. I think they're one of the more fun offenses to watch because they're very smart with the football. They get chunk plays. A lot of times, Dak Prescott's stat line, he has 4 touchdowns with not a huge amount of passing yards or attempts. And I like how this team is getting chunk plays on the offense. I think everyone's contributing well. CeeDee Lamb looks a lot like Des Bryant. And I'm not just saying that because they both were 88, but they both have that physicality you would like. So he reminds me of him. So you have Lamb there. Amari Cooper looks nice. He does his job. He's been injured. He's still a good player. Dalton Schultz has been great as tight end, and I'm super happy about that because I have him in fantasy. Zeke Elliott looks kind of like his self in 2016 when he was a top back, and then Tony Pollard as the number 2 has been really great. And in this defense, people talk about Trayvon Diggs, and yes, he's been fantastic. I'm not taking anything away from him. I think, he has a ton of picks, a lot of touchdowns. He's kind of been the breakout player. But there's still other good players there, right? I think this D-line has done a nice job. This secondary besides Diggs. Micah Parsons has been a really big impact. DeMarcus Lawrence, I know he's been injured, but he's still a good player. Leighton Vander Esch, I know has kind of been injured, but he's made some nice plays. I just feel like this Cowboys defense looks good. And this team, I think, could win the Super Bowl. Someone commented this on the Cowboys Patriots highlight reel on YouTube, but they're like, this is a game the Cowboys would usually lose. However, they didn't. And I think that's that's perfectly said. And I think that, Mike McCarthy is not my favorite coach, but with the Green Bay Packers, what he did well with his tenure there is that he was able to, coach a good offense. And I think having, as much as this pains me to say, Dan Quinn, who's been great this season as defensive coordinator, he's been excellent. I think having someone like that who has head coach experience in Dan Quinn kind of does help. So this Cowboys team, I really like the way they're looking so far. They have 5 wins. They have some tough games coming up, like the Chiefs. They have the Chiefs still to play. They have I think the Saints still, they have some division games, but they have some winnable games. They have like the Raiders, Broncos, those are winnable. They have the Falcons, they can win that. I think they could beat the Eagles again. I think they could sweep Washington or New York. So this team could get to like 11, 12 wins. I'm super excited for whenever the Cowboys play the Chiefs. I think that's week 11 or 12. That'll be a great game. But yeah, I think this Dallas team can really, I think they're a contender for sure. And I think they could win the Super Bowl because they're doing pretty much everything right. Even special teams, they made some nice clutch field goal kicks as well.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think this team is a Super Bowl contender. They have all the pieces. They got a good quarterback, great supporting cast, and then they got a good defense. And I think that's the main recipe for having a good Super Bowl contending team. And you have Mike McCarthy. He's not the best coach, but he does have Super Bowl experience. You have Dan
Hmm.
Quinn, who's had a really good year, but he also has Super Bowl experience. He won a Super Bowl with the Seahawks, and then he also went to the Super Bowl with the Falcons. Blew the lead, but
No.
almost had it. But no, you have 2 coaches who have a lot of experience and know what it takes to win, how to win. Um, but no, the Cowboys defense has been phenomenal. Definitely way better than last year, that's for sure. Trayvon Diggs, he's been really solid. He's really great at getting the ball, but he does let up a lot of yards. So I think everyone needs to calm down. He's good at picking off the ball, but he needs to get better at actually covering, if that makes sense. But he's a good ball hawk. Keanu O'Neil, he's been really good. They kind of been using him as like a linebacker more than a safety, just because I think he's had so many injuries. I think he's kind of suited for linebacker because he's a really physical player. So he can get down in the trenches and make some hits. Micah Parsons, they've been using him as a coverage linebacker, but he's really excelled as a pass rusher. He's been an absolute stud at pass rushing this year. DeMonte Kazi and Malik Hooker, they've been a really solid safety duo. DeMarcus Lawrence, he's DeMarcus Lawrence. He's going to play solid. Then talking about the offense, Dak Prescott's having an absolute amazing year. And I really think the Cowboys offense is a little better than it was last year before Dak got hurt, was because they're a little more balanced. Last year was very Dak heavy. I think this year it's still Dak heavy, but not as much as it was last year for sure. And I think Ezekiel Elliott isn't getting enough love. I think he's been playing really good this year. Always gets made fun of and saying he's washed, but I think he's playing really good. And I think that has to do with Tony Pollard giving him some rest, because he got a lot of attempts throughout his Ohio State days and his early years as a Cowboy. So that takes a toll on you. But no, he's been really good. CD Lamb has been fantastic. I like what you said about the Dez Bryant comparison. They even have like the same kind of like swagger to them, if that makes sense, because at the end of that overtime game, CD Lamb was like dancing before he got in the end zone. Then he started waving goodbye to the Patriots. I forgot who was guarding him, but he was waving to the Patriots defensive back, and I thought that was really funny because it really did remind me of like a Terrell Owens, Dez Bryant type of thing.
Yeah.
And it was super cool to see that. Amari Cooper, he's still playing like Amari Cooper. Like you said, their tight end, I think that was a big concern coming in this year, but they've really shown up and been solid. And their offensive line has been really good too. So I think this team is just overall like really, they have like very few holes. The coaching is at an all-time high that it's been in the past many years. Jason Garrett probably like was not that good for him, and Mike McCarthy is really taking them the next step. Also, they're in a division that I think we all thought was going to be really close, because it always is. But they've by far have taken the lead on this division. I do not see any team in that division taking that throne, because Eagles are just too young. Washington, I don't know what's gone wrong with their defense and everything. And then
they had a good defensive game against the Chiefs, but the offense just wasn't there.
Yeah, and this inconsistency for them. And the Giants, I mean, having Daniel Jones games where he plays really good, then the next week he's back to reality. It's just too much inconsistency from those three other teams. And it's not, and the Cowboys have played some pretty solid teams. I mean, if their kicker doesn't miss 30 field goals in the first game, they're probably 6-0 right now. So yeah, against the reigning Super Bowl champs. So yeah, I think this team is definitely a contender for sure.
Yeah, I just want to touch on the Giants real quick. A lot of people said, "Oh, Daniel Jones been so great," but like he has a lot of yards. But I feel like the points are so small. I don't know. I feel like he's one of those guys that just throws for a lot, but doesn't really score points. It's weird. I like what you said about the Cowboys coaching staff. Mike McCarthy, I mean, he's good. I don't think he's doing anything to like ruin the team, if that makes sense. He's not he's not going backwards. I felt like when he was with the Packers, he had some moments he would hold his team back. He's not doing that. So, he's moving forward. I think Trayvon Diggs, he gives up a lot of yards, but I think that's how you have to play corner in the NFL nowadays. It's hard to not give up yards. So I think taking the ball away and giving it to the offense is kind of a way to play corner with the way the rules are shaping up. But yeah, I like their coaching staff. And I think this team could compete pretty well. It wouldn't shock me if they go like on like a huge run in the NFC playoffs. Um, I could see them being a team like the Packers, Rams. That would be a bit more equal. Same with Tampa Bay. Arizona would be a really fun matchup. That would be a great NFC championship game if we were to get that. But yeah, the Cowboys are the fourth team. And then the fifth team, Mason, you have to end us off on this segment is the Kansas City Chiefs. Here we go.
This is easily the hardest one, I think, by far, for me at least. Just because it's like I want to say they're a contender, but I know that they have a lot of qualities to be a contender. But I'm going to lean more on the pretender side. I think that defense is just so bad. I mean, they're averaging 7 yards of play given up, which is absolutely horrible. They're almost letting up a first down every play. And it's just so hard because that Chiefs offense, like I feel like in the playoffs, all it takes, I think they can beat any team. So that's why I kind of want to go contenders too, just because I think they can compete with any team. But like you saw in that Bills game, if the Chiefs offense isn't going, their defense isn't going to bail them out. I mean, their defense is going to let up 30 plus points. And it's just really hard for me to go against them. And then they lose to a game like the Ravens where, yeah, they could have won that game, but they turned over the ball. And I don't think that's a game where it's like, oh, we could have won that game. I think that's kind of telling of how their offense has been as well, because they've been turning over the football way too much. Patrick Mahomes looks like he's trying to do too much. He's not throwing the ball away enough. He's not taking the sack. Sometimes you have to live to see another down, which is a lot of coaches will tell you is live to see another down. And Patrick Mahomes really hasn't done that this year. And then you have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who really hasn't been a fumbling problem. Even in his college days, he didn't have a fumbling problem. He's fumbled the ball a ton. This team is just too kind of like wild, if that makes sense. It's just kind of like people running everywhere around the field, not a lot of consistency. Their defense is just so bad. Like Tyrann Matthew and Chris Jones are like the good bright spots, that defense. But I don't know. It's really hard for me to say they're a contender, just because I did say earlier you can win with a mediocre defense, but I think the Chiefs defense is bottom 5 probably at this point in the year, and they can always turn it around. I like their I like their coordinator on defense. I forgot his name.
Steve Spagnuolo.
Yeah, Steve Spagnuolo. I actually like him a lot. I just don't think he has a ton to work with. But yeah, I'm gonna go more on the pretender side, just because I think when it comes down to it, you look at the Chargers, you look at the Bills, and you look at the Ravens, you've seen more consistency from them, and they both have solid sides of the football, defense and offense. So it's really hard for me to say that, and they could easily prove me wrong and go on a crazy run in the playoffs, but I think there's better teams in the AFC this year.
It's tough. I'm gonna say Contenders because they do have holes, but that offense, it's scary because like even games where they like turn the ball, like the Ravens, they lost by only 3 with a game that most teams would have lost by like 10 or so, right? And I think kind of showing a team like that is like Mahomes, I think against the Ravens, he had some misplays. Tyreek Hill was quiet. Kind of reminds me of the Browns Cardinals game we just had this weekend. Cardinals looked great. Browns didn't get anything clicking. They only scored 2 touchdowns. One of them was a Hail Mary. It was tough for them, right? I think a team like the Chiefs, even if they don't play well, they can still make things close, and that's what's scary. And I feel like that this team's gonna learn. That's kind of my thing with them is that they've been to 2 Super Bowls. They have had that experience when it matters, and I think that they'll take the adjustments needed. I think one thing that kind of helps the Chiefs is that they have kind of an easier schedule here at the end of things, and I could see them. They have the Steelers, Bengals. I think they could beat both of them. They have the Giants. They could win that. They have still the division games, a good amount of them. They have the Cowboys. We'll see about that. The Packers, I think they could win. I don't know because this team, it's like I just feel like as soon as we count the Chiefs out, they're going to come back rolling. So I still think they have that potential and threat. And I thought their defense did play well against Washington. I thought that they played well, and I think that their offense has been looking better. And it's nice to see them running the ball. They have been running the ball better. So I think this team's going to heat up. I think they do beat the Tennessee Titans this week. It's going to be interesting, though. The Chiefs definitely look a lot more vulnerable than I think all of us thought they would. So it's interesting to see how this plays out in the future. But I think they make the playoffs. I could see them kind of going to maybe the championship game again, or maybe the divisional round and losing to a team like the Ravens there. But I don't know. I think they'll make it pretty far. And the thing is like even if they make the wild card, who wants to play the Chiefs there, right? Like that's just not going to be fun.
Not me. Yeah, no, that's my entire thing is like, I think they have what it takes to compete with any team.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the fact if they can execute it, which they haven't really done against solid teams this year. And I think that's with like a lot of teams. It's like, I think you can see like a team maybe like in the wild card, for example, like I know the Chargers have played really good this year, but you see the Chargers, maybe they end up like with the 6th seed or something and they don't win the division, but they could just go on a crazy run and win the Super Bowl. It's just like, I think that's what's so good about football is it's one game at a time,
Mm-hmm.
and then the playoffs, any team can win. So I think that's really cool about the NFL, and I think that's why the Chiefs can definitely do something there.
Mason, as you're a Cardinals fan, they're playing well. If they were to say make the Super Bowl, and if the opponents were the Chiefs, Bills, Ravens, who would you feel the most confident playing out of those three?
Those three,
I'll probably say
I
the
think that's
Bills
tough.
because the Bills really don't
Yeah,
really run
I
the
wouldn't want to
thing.
play either of them, but I'd probably go the Bills just because they have the least. Because like I definitely don't want to go against Patrick Mahomes in the
Yeah,
Super Bowl, and
that's
I
the
definitely don't
thing.
want to get. And then Lamar Jackson would be just having to think about guarding him is a nightmare. So, and Josh Allen could run. Don't get me wrong; he's a great quarterback, but I think in terms of like you look at the film, he's easier to game plan for than say Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, we didn't talk about the Bills that much, but they need to run the football. When they beat the
Yeah.
Chiefs, I was like, yeah, cool, great win. But I'm like, they need to run the football. They didn't, and they lost against the Titans. So I need to see more increase in that. I like Singletary, I like Moss, they're good players. Use them more here, Buffalo. So I want to go on to the 2018 draft class. This one is probably going to be a bit quicker because a lot of these players I think have been pretty great. So I'm going to go home run, hit, solid, underwhelming, and miss. Um, so I'll start first with Baker Mayfield. I think this has been a hit. I've been a huge Baker Mayfield guy. Even though he's been underwhelming this season, I still think he has the intangibles you want. He's a really good thrower down the field. I think he has that leadership you want. And as a franchise guy in Cleveland, when he was picked number one overall, he is what you want there. So I think Baker Mayfield has been a hit. I don't know about home run, but he's been a really nice player in his career. And I think that he just might be someone who's with the Browns for like 5, 10 years. And if that's the case, that's not a bad thing because you have your franchise quarterback and can compete every year.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think this is a hit because you got your franchise quarterback. I don't think it's a home run just because, in my opinion, I think Josh Allen is a better quarterback. I think that's pretty obvious at this point. But at the time, no one even knew that. So
Mm-hmm.
still a hit for me. Baker Mayfield, he's such a good leader. He really knows how to rally his team. He's a tough, tough guy. He's one of the toughest quarterbacks, I think, in the NFL. He gives me a lot of Matt Stafford vibes in terms of
Mm-hmm.
toughness, where like he will get on that field no matter what it takes. So yeah, and he just fits that Cleveland culture. I mean,
He
Cleveland is a
does. He's
tough
helped
place
turn
to
it
play in.
around.
Yeah, Cleveland is a tough place to play, and those fans are die hard.
They are.
They are intense, and I think he fits that intensity. So I really like what he's done for him.
All right, Mason, you have the number. You have the even numbers. You have Saquon.
Yeah, so it was home run hit. What was the middle one? Solid. Yeah, so I think this is a solid pick. I think Saquon Barkley is a fantastic running back, and I think it's not a hit or a home run just because he hasn't been on the field as much as we would like to seen. Really sucks too because he was kind of getting back to his rookie of the year status when he had that massive game against the Saints. It was he played really good, and then the next game he unfortunately got hurt. It's been kind of the telling story of Saquon Barkley throughout his very short career.
Yeah,
I think it's solid. I think if he starts playing more, it'll definitely be a hit or home run in my opinion.
I think it's been underwhelming and number two to have someone who hasn't worked out. He's been explosive. He's been injury prone, and it's just unfortunate. For him, Sam Darnold, I'm gonna go miss at number three for the Jets. Just didn't really work out. I think he was just very a raw physical player. And even now with the Panthers, we see that he's gonna make mistakes. I just think the Jets could have had better play calling and surrounding him with a better cast. In Carolina, he's looked good. I was always lower on Sam Darnold, but when he can make a nice play in the pocket and throw a nice ball, then he's been great. But with the Jets, he was a miss, and I haven't seen enough on the Panthers to turn this into anything else. So that's what I'll say.
Yeah, definitely a hit for the or excuse me, not a hit. Definitely a miss. Definitely not a hit. Definitely the miss for the Jets because he barely lasted there. They drafted his replacement with Zach Wilson, and the entire experiment with him didn't work. And then you kind of look at this year and you're like, wow, maybe he's kind of like a hit for the Panthers. And then he kind of fell back to earth almost. He really hasn't been playing good. So I definitely think this is a miss just because At the time, Baker Mayfield wasn't the number one prospect in many people's eyes. It was Sam Darnold. Many people were shocked when Darnold didn't go number one, especially Colin
Mhm.
Coward. Um, um, so yeah, definitely a miss, I think, just because of all the expectations. This guy is supposed to be a franchise saving person, and he hasn't done that with the Jets. And with the Panthers, he's been okay, but not a number three pick, in my opinion.
Yeah, and then you have Denzel Ward at 4.
Yeah, Denzel Ward. I definitely think this is a hit. He's been really good for the Browns, in my
Mhm.
opinion. He's not like on the status of a say a Jalen Ramsey or a Jair Alexander, but he's kind of on the status of like a Marshawn Lattimore will, where he will be a very, very good corner for you. Um, and I think this was a great pick for him because a lot of people wanted them to take Bradley Chubb. Bradley Chubb's been really injured. He hasn't really worked out too well. He's been good when he's played, but Denzel Ward's been really consistent throughout his career in terms of staying on the field. And he's played really good. And I think this is an absolute hit for the Browns.
Yeah, I love Denzel Ward. He's one of my favorite corners. Really has that speed and athleticism you want at that position. Bradley Chubb, underwhelming. I don't think this is even. He's injured. Even on the field, he doesn't play that well. Like this dude was hyped up. It was supposed to be Miller and Chubb, this dynamic duo, and Chubb. He hasn't really made a ton of plays. I just feel like that if you got him maybe late round 1 or round 2, okay, cool, but he's not lived up to this hype. I get why Denver took him. He just has not worked out. I think it's very underwhelming. It's not a miss because he has had some good plays here and there, but I don't know. Even when people like, I just don't see it from him. I know sometimes pass rushers are based on certain stats. I just don't see it from Chubb as this elite player. He's good, but he's not fantastic. And that's really what you want in the top 5. So I'm gonna go underwhelming for Chubb. Mason, you have Quentin Nelson next.
Yeah, Quinn Nelson. I'm absolutely going home run, home run, home run, out of the park, home run. This guy is debatably the best prospect in this draft, in my opinion. He is so, so good. I know he's missed a couple games this year, but besides that, he has not missed any time. He just got really unlucky. And when you play offensive line, you're bound to get hurt. I mean, you're literally colliding with another grown man 60 times a game. You're bound to get some type of injury, I feel like. Um, but no, this guy is so good. He is on pace to be a Hall of Famer, in my opinion,
Mhm.
by far. I think he has what it takes to be the best offensive guard that's ever played this game. I think he's that good. He reshaped that Colts offensive line. I know the whole Colts offensive line did, but as soon as Quentin Nelson was plugged into that left guard spot, it's been an absolute game changer. I mean, you look at the highlight tapes of offensive linemen, it's not very entertaining. But when you look at Quentin Nelson, it's entertaining because this dude is running over people. And there's also a lot of times where like there'll be a screenplay to say that maybe a Jonathan Taylor, Marlon Mack. Quentin Nelson is full on sprinting ahead to get to that secondary. I'm like, this guy is an absolute stud. He is by far my favorite offensive lineman in the league. He is just so entertaining to watch, and I genuinely think he's going to be a Hall of Famer one of these days.
Yeah, I agree. He's really fun to watch. Josh Allen next. He is a home run hit, in my opinion. I mean, the dude is athletic. He's a great thrower. He's smart. I think you could. I think he's the second best quarterback in this class. But he's worked out well. And I want to give a lot of credit to the Bills coaching staff because he was a raw prospect coming out. Right. So the fact that they molded him into this great player, I think says a lot to him. Yeah, there's not that much to say about Josh Allen. We talk about him a lot and for a good reason because he's been that franchise guy for the Bills.
Yeah, absolutely. So Roquan Smith, I'm going to go just a hit. I think he's been pretty solid for that Bears linebacker group. Definitely not a home run just he hasn't been super elite, but he's definitely been a really solid player, and I definitely think he could get a couple Pro Bowls throughout his career. So definitely a hit for me.
Yeah, he's been a nice player. I like Roquan Smith. Mike McGlinchey, he kind of, I'm gonna go. I'll go hit. He's kind of like the Roquan Smith of offensive linemen. Like they're both not fantastic, but they're not bad. They're good players and they do what you want them to do. He's helped the 49ers kind of in that Super Bowl run, getting there, and helping that offensive line with the run game. So definitely I'll go hit for Mike McGlinchey.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, this one I'm gonna keep short and sweet. Miss.
On
That's all I have to say about Josh Rosen. Absolute misfire.
Oh no. Minka Fitzpatrick's interesting because on the Dolphins, he was underutilized for 1 year. Then year two, he goes to Pittsburgh. I think he's been pretty good. I think this has been a home run pick. I know that things with the Dolphins didn't work out, but with the Steelers, he's been a great safety. He's physical. He can make plays happen all over the field. He's a lot of fun to watch. So I think this is a home run pick here, even though he ended up with a different team. If he was drafted by the Steelers at this spot, I think it would have been a home run. So yeah, I'll go home run for Minka.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely a solid safety, one of the best. Vita Vea, I'm going home run as well. He's been so good on that
Hmm.
Buccaneers defensive line. He causes chaos every play, so definitely a home run for me. Just absolutely reshaping that defensive line.
Yeah. The next couple of players I don't have a ton to say about. Daron Payne has been solid for Washington. I think he's been a good D lineman. He hasn't done anything in an elite level, but he kind of reminds me of like a young Geno Atkins, who's always like good at run stopping, getting a pressure here and there. He's been a nice player, but he's not been great. So I'll go solid for him.
Yeah, for sure. Like that. Kind of the same thing with Marcus Davenport. I think solid. He's had a little bit of a better year this year than his previous years because he's actually playing. Um, but I think he's okay. I don't think he's anything crazy. But just a solid player.
I'll actually go underwhelming because the Saints trade up for this. I remember everyone thought they were going to take Lamar Jackson, but yeah, he's just, I don't think he has been that great of a pass rusher. Colton Miller, I'll go underwhelming. He's been fine at tackle, but when you take an offensive lineman, you want them to be great. You want them to really help the team. And I just don't think he has. I think when the Raiders O line was great, it was more the pieces around Colton Miller than Colton Miller himself. So I'll go underwhelming.
Yeah, Tremaine Edmonds, I'm gonna go solid. I think a lot of people might overhype him a little bit, in my opinion. I think he's a good linebacker for sure, but I don't think he's as hyped as many people have him out to be. But I think he's solid.
I want to ignore Mason said that. And in all seriousness, I get what you mean. He's a very raw player, so he'll miss some plays. So I can see that. Duran James hit. I think when he plays great, he's a home run talent. He just hasn't been able to because he's injuries. But he's one of my favorite players whenever he's on his elite games. Yeah, Duran James definitely a hit for the Chargers. Has been great this season, kind of getting back to his old self, which is always good to see.
Yeah, for sure. If he stays on the field, he'll be a home run over time. Jay Alexander, easily a home run.
Mhm.
One of the best corners in the NFL, and you got him at 18. Absolute stud and great pick by the Packers at 18.
It's weird because Jair went from like good to like elite in like such a short span. It's so crazy how that happened.
Yeah,
Like Leighton Vander Esch, I remember people like, ooh, when the spec happened, then he was really good. And people like, well, we're wrong about him. Now he's not so great. I'll it's weird because at times he looks like a home run, times he's been underwhelming. So I'll go in the middle. He's been solid. I hope he succeeds because he seems like a great dude. He's fun to watch. He kind of has this fun play style. He also has like that collar thing up. It looks cool. He just needs to get more consistent. So I'll go solid for him.
for sure. I think Frank Ragnow, I don't think he gets enough credit for what
Oh
he's
yeah,
done
he's
for
good.
that Lions team. I think he's more. I think he's a hit slash a home run. I think he's been really good, especially at pick 20. I mean, there's a reason why they signed him to a big extension. I think he's been a top five, top seven center in this NFL since he's been in the league. He's been really underappreciated by the NFL, in my opinion.
Yeah, I hope he gets more recognition. He's been the one bright spot like the Lions this season. Billy Price, he's been solid for the Bengals. You know, he's had some injury stuff. When he plays, he's good. I think he'll be better when Joe Burrow plays more. And I think he'll be one of his main mans, but he's been good at it as a center. So I'll go. I would be a hit without the injuries, but with the injuries, it's a solid pick.
Yeah, for sure. Um, Next up, I got Rashawn Evans. This is hard. I
It
kind of want to go
is.
solid. I'll go solid. I think he's kind of just in the middle. I think he's an okay linebacker. I think he's really good at stopping the run. He's not fantastic in pass coverage. He's just not as fast as you'd like your middle linebacker to be, but I think he's been a solid run stopper throughout his career.
Yeah, the time is interesting. Yeah, I think that's fair. Isaiah Wynn's been a great player for the Patriots. Just kind of one of those solid Patriots players who executes week in and week out. I think this has been a hit, especially for 23.
Yeah, for sure. For DJ Moore, I'm gonna go home run. I think he's one of the most underrated wide receivers in this NFL. He's played really good with not a lot of elite quarterback help, I guess I should put it. And he's played really good, and he's had some of the best couple years that you could have as a wide receiver in only your third year. So absolute home run for the Panthers.
He is so fun to watch. Like he's fast, he has great arms, he has great jump ball. I think he could really be good. I think he could be a top five wide receiver in like the next year or so. Hayden Hurst is interesting because with the Ravens, he was pretty good. I liked him. And he's like, oh, that's cool. Then he gets traded to the Falcons, and he's been good there. I think he's been solid, and that's what I'll go. By the way, awesome dude, though. He really pushes mental health awareness. He's just an awesome dude off the field, and he's been a solid player. So good job for Hayden Hurst. I'll go solid for him.
Yeah, definitely like that. Calvin Ridley, pick 26. I'm gonna go home run. He hasn't had the biggest year he's had this year, and I think, but I really don't blame him. That full Falcons team has really been underwhelming just because it's just the Falcons this year. Um, but overall, throughout his career, he's a touchdown machine. I mean, you can see it on the screen. I think it says 27 touchdowns. I think that's what the stat is throughout 3 years, which is absolutely incredible. And I think he's definitely going to be that future wide receiver one for the Falcons because he has great route running, and he's just a fantastic player, in my opinion.
He's kind of like when people say Michael Thomas only runs slants, he needs to do more. Calvin Ridley is a great runner who does go deep. So he's kind of like this Keenan Allen, Michael Thomas mix. It's really cool. Seahawks overdrafting, Rashawn Penny miss. Next up, Mason got Terrell Edmonds for the Steelers, who
Yeah,
might be
Terrell.
joining Rashawn Penny.
Yeah, Terrell Edmonds. Definitely the worst out of the brothers, the Edmonds brothers. I'm gonna go miss. I think they overdrafted him here as well. I don't think many people expected. They know we knew Tremaine Edmonds was gonna go in the first round. I don't know about Terrell. Um, and yeah, then they end up getting Minka Fitzpatrick, who's been pretty much his replacement, who's been an absolute stud. So definitely a miss.
I did not get this pick when it was taken. I still don't get it now. Taven Bryan, the Jaguars were like great the year before with that defense. Defense is great. Why do you get him? This is kind of a miss. I mean, he's not been that great. Sometimes players on bad teams go underrated, but I have not seen anything that will point in a different direction. He's been a bust, in my opinion, a miss here for the Jaguars. And I think that's kind of what started their downfall out after the AFC Championship season was not going with a different pick here.
Yeah, I mean, he's had 3.5 sacks in his career. That's just extremely underwhelming. Um, yeah, just not a solid player. He barely even plays for him. Then Mike Hughes, I'm gonna go miss as well. He's not even in Minnesota anymore. He signed with the Chiefs, but then the Chiefs. There's a reason why their secondary sucks. They don't have anyone really good there. Yeah, there's a reason why the Vikings traded him for a 6th round pick, and then he's barely played on the Chiefs. I think this is a miss for sure.
I'm gonna go underwhelming for Sony Michelle. I know he's on a different team, but I thought the Patriots he was good as a runner and helped them win some Super Bowls. So he hasn't been that great though. I'll go solid at the end of it. And then Mason, you have the last pick.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson. I think we all know this one. Definitely underwhelming.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. Definitely a home run. Uh, Unanimous MVP for a reason. He's definitely in the MVP conversation again this year. Uh, Always gets hate every single year, and he always proves people wrong. So I don't know when they'll stop hating on him, but he is an absolute stud.
He is, and I'll do it. For this recap, I think this was a pretty good round one. I think the misses you have, like of Josh Rosen, there's only a couple of them. I think most of these guys, they've been kind of but there's no one that terrible. So I think this has been a pretty good class overall. I would say even round two, you got people like Nick Chubb, Darius Leonard. So this was definitely a great class. Cortland Sutton round two. Uh, I don't have that much to say about this week of football. I think that a lot of these games are going to be very one-sided and blowout. Like, let's look at some of the games we have this week. Um, there's just a lot of like last week was fantastic. Cowboys, Patriots are great. Seahawks, Steelers, Bills, Titans, Cardinals, Browns. You have a lot of exciting games. Well, this week, I don't know. It's very one side. Like Washington, Green Bay, Packers, Jets, Patriots, Lions, Rams. Cool revenge game narrative, but Rams, Eagles, Raiders, Texans, Cardinals, Bears, Buccaneers. I think a lot of these teams are gonna be, or these games are gonna be very one-sided. The one that gets me excited is Colts 49ers, which is Sunday night. Both teams have been underwhelming. Both defenses have been fine. It's gonna be interesting to see who wins. I think Indy could win. Carson Wentz has been playing well. I'm excited for that game. I think Monday night as well. The Saints and the Seahawks could be really kind of close. Depending on who the Seahawks quarterback is. Looks like it might be Geno Smith. So
Yeah, if you told me a couple of years ago that Geno Smith would play in 3 straight primetime games in 2021, I would have called you crazy.
oh,
Um,
has been for sure.
I would have called you absolutely insane. But no, I'm definitely excited for those games too. I'm really excited for this Cardinals Texans game just because it's Hopkins and JJ Watt's like revenge game almost. It's not in Houston, which would make it a complete revenge game, but and then Bill O'Brien's not coaching, that would really make it a revenge game. But still will be a fun game to watch. See how D Hop. I think D Hop will have a different energy that game. I think he's going to be really locked in that
You
game.
just see like Bill O'Brien watching the game in this stadium. He has like a disguise on like the fake mustache.
Oh my god, that
Um,
would be funny.
that would be funny if the Cardinals first loss comes to Texans. I don't see how though, because I think Davis Mills is playing. I think what happens is that the game will start off kind of close because the Texans kind of play well in the beginning of games. Like I think halftime will be something like maybe 13-20, and I think the Cardinals win something like 35-19 or something like that. I think this could be a potential blowout though.
Mhm.
Um, Mason, any other games are you excited about? I'm excited for Bengals Ravens with Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson facing off. That'll be I think a closer one than people may think.
Yeah, I think that game was pretty good. Honestly, a game that most people won't be excited for, but I kind of am is Bears versus Buccaneers. I kind of just like watching Justin Fields and Tom Brady. I always like watching him, so I think that'll be a fun dynamic, kind of like the old versus the new. Um,
Yeah.
Old being Justin Fields, obviously, and new being Tom Brady because Tom Brady's never going to retire. But no, it should be a really fun game. I really feel like Tom Brady's gonna take this game. I know he takes every game seriously, but I think he wants to win this game so bad because of last year, because he got absolutely
Oh
clowned on for the
yeah.
fourth down thing. So I think he's gonna
Against the
like.
Bears. Yeah.
I feel like Tom Brady might just drop like 8 touchdowns and be like, "Looks like I remember the downs this time, guys," and just
I
go
can see
absolutely
him saying that
insane.
on like the post game videos he does on Instagram. When like, oh my gosh, that one. The
Yeah,
Bears might get destroyed 2 weeks from being I still own you to 8 touchdowns by Tom Brady.
yeah. I don't know that. Yeah. Speaking of that, Aaron Rodgers saying that to the Bears will whenever they make this Hall of Fame video, that will be in there when he says
Mhm.
"I own you," and they're gonna be like, "In fact, Aaron Rodgers does own the Bears as he's gone 22-2 throughout his career against them, or
That
something
is
like that."
that is a classic NFL moment. And that's gonna be seen for years and years to come. Yeah, speaking of Justin Fields, I don't know. I was very low on him coming out, but I don't know. It's like he's made some nice plays, like he's thrown some nice passes to like Donner Mooney, Allen Robinson, but then it's like I don't know. I just haven't seen the dynamicness from the running. I think he's played well, but I don't know. He's not bad. He's not turning the ball over, but he's not like making plays. It's been kind of this awkward middle ground. It's like if you have Justin Fields in there, do something with him. I think having him in there and you're not using him that much, it's like, why is he in there? You could say to gain experience, but he could do that on the bench. I don't know. It's just kind of this weird thing for Chicago. I feel like he's just kind of there. I'm like, use him at least a bit more, be more risky.
Yeah, I think Matt Nagy. I think he needs to really flip some things around, or he will be in the hot seat by the end of this year. Same with Ryan Pace, their GM. I think both those guys are going to be on the hot seat when it comes to the end of this year because Matt Nagy has been absolutely atrocious this year. I feel like they're 3-3, so they're like middle tier. But I mean, you look at the teams they've beaten. They beat the Bengals. The Bengals almost came back and won. And that was when the Bengals really didn't play that good either. I mean, Burrow threw 3 straight picks. They beat the Lions, and the Lions are 0-6, guys. So it's not crazy. And then I forgot the other team they beat. I'm blanking out, but you look at those 3 wins, and then you see they play the Rams, got dominated, play the Packers. The game
They
looked close from
they
the
beat the
scoreboard.
Raiders.
Yeah, they beat the Raiders, or they beat the Raiders. That was a good game for sure. That was easily their best win of the year.
It was.
But I don't think that is attributed to Matt Nagy. I think the defense really played good that game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have Justin Fields and you're throwing 20 times a game. I know he's a rookie. You don't want to overthrow him, but at least give him like 30 attempts a game. I feel like give him some more reps. I mean, Allen Robinson is poorly misused this year. It's like
Mhm.
actually should be a crime that they put a franchise tag on him and they just misuse him. But yeah, the
Yes.
Bears offense is a complete joke right now, and the defense is good, which I think has been kind of the story for the past 3 years for that
Yeah.
team.
I think people are still high on this team. I see people like, oh, they might make the playoffs. I'm like, I doubt they will, and I think they're going to get blown out. So just the reality of it. I'm also excited for this Falcons Dolphins game. Falcons, I've had so many issues with them. If they win this game, they're 3-3, which is interesting. In that NFC South, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are probably going to run away with it, but the Saints flip-flopping every week, the Panthers doing Panthers things and declining after a great start. Falcons could be in this here potentially. I'm interested because the Dolphins have looked so bad. It's like what happened. They had the Washington effect. So I think the Falcons win and they'll be 3-3, which I think makes things more interesting in the NFC South. I still think the Tampa Bay walks away with the division because I still think they're the better team in the NFL of all the teams. That's a debate for another time, but it's just interesting to see the Falcons turn around. I don't think there's any other games. Um, I know we've discussed Panthers Giants a bit off camera. I think the Giants could upset just because the Panthers lose these types of games. This is how things go, but we'll see. And whatever happens, we'll be there to cover it. Thank you all so much for watching this episode, Mason. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, for sure. This was a lot of fun.
It was, and we'll see you all next time, everyone. Take care and have fun watching football.